Hello, spoon feeders. Welcome to another episode of Spoon Fed Truth, a podcast about finding Damien a new wife. Oh, sorry, was that our other podcast?
Why did we have to start there? Could have started anywhere.
Straight into it, buddy. Straight into it.
Okay, look, let's start again. A podcast about broken systems, broken sleep, and unbreakable love.
What?
It's very fitting for the topic.
Okay, fair enough.
Sure.
Well, yes, I did want to talk today about friends and family and how relationships have changed. This is quite a big topic. This is going to be a two-parter, so I hope you guys are available for part two.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is quite a sensitive topic as well, and I know a lot of people will resonate with the things that we are going to be talking about today, because if you recall, a few years ago, I started a what do you call it? Blog. Thank you. I started a blog because I wanted to talk about what life was like with Paul post-injury and some of the things, our daily life, and some of the challenges that we come across.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of feedback when I touched on the subject that we're talking about today. I had it was quite I think a subject that hit a lot of nerves for people just because it's something that I think most people in disability can relate to, or at least have an understanding of in some way or another. So let's get into it. I'm your host, Vicky. I am a mum. I'm a carer for my husband, Paul, who is not with us today. He's literally in the next room snoring his head off because that's what he does at this time of day, every day. So Paul sustained a brain injury after his motorbike collided with a truck, and he is now a quadriplegic. He's also non-verbal, but he understands everything. Although I still believe he has selective hearing, but that was also pre-injury.
Yeah. Typical male.
It must be a male thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anything to say on that?
You look like you've gone a few rounds in the ring.
Why do we have to bring that up?
Because, I mean, it's kind of obvious you've got some injuries to your face.
It's nothing.
And it wasn't just me and Emma
Could have been.
who laid into you.
It's all my prospective girlfriends just
Yeah.
giving me a hard time.
Fighting over him.
All right. So, yes, we are joined today by my co-hosts, Emma and Damien. Say hello to the people.
Hi.
Hello?
Now, just for full disclosure, we are not medical professionals. Anything we discuss during this podcast is strictly opinion and life experience based. If you are seeking professional advice, don't listen to us. Speak to your doctor or medical professional. We are telling stories from our personal perspectives. So take it with a grain of salt. But we do a fair bit of research about the topics that we talk about, and also our own professional and personal experiences. I worked in aged care from a I think I was about 18, 19 when I started working in aged care. And during that time, I had worked my way from direct care with residents and clients all the way up to management. And I stayed in management for a very long time, up until Paul's accident. Even after his accident, I continued. I was working community care, so I've seen the best of both worlds. And now I'm on the side of, from the client's perspective. So I think it gives me an advantage to see different sides of how the aged and disability sector really work. And one thing that I noticed a lot was especially in aged care, a lot of people have visitors, family and friends come to visit, but there was also a significant amount of people that had nobody, and the staff essentially became family for a lot of these people.
Yeah.
And not just the mainstream residents, but your dementias,
Yeah.
people with varying levels of disability. So
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
So I've never worked in aged care, so I really wouldn't know. But so there's the regular people, obviously, that are elderly and need care in that
Yes.
regard. But are they normally amongst other people who have other illnesses, like if they have
Absolutely.
dementia or?
Absolutely. So because, like anything, dementia is also a spectrum. So depending on what type of dementia you have, they're not you could be living amongst people with dementia who might be early onset. Some people, and it depends on facilities as well. I know in residential care where I was working, we also had a secure dementia unit for dementia people who would wander around. If they were living with the mainstream residents, they would probably be able to walk out and get lost and not be able to remember how to get home. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, and it also depends on the facility what they can provide in terms of
Right.
security and safety for residents. So yeah, it can be a bit of a mixed bag, and you've got illnesses of various levels that people can come in with. So yeah, it just depends.
It'd be interesting to have a bit of perspective on, some of the people that may be in there but aren't particularly dealing with any illnesses or anything. What their perspective would be, having to like live amongst them. Not that it's bad or anything, but it's just obviously that's a reality that you would have to deal with. So in some way they would have some sort of opinion on it for sure.
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
living amongst people.
But yeah, so seeing that for myself, where there's a lot of people who don't have or might have family out there, but relationships can be strained. There was a lot of people I don't speak to their family members anymore for whatever reason, and it's not any of my business. I'm there to provide a service and care, but a lot of the staff providing direct care work to them do become like family members, and it's not unheard of for residents, whether in a facility or living in the community, to leave things to their carers in their will.
I was about to ask that. Yeah.
It's not unheard of, and it's quite
Is
more common than you
is there
think.
some kind of policy against that, or? Because I feel like
in my experience, and I'm not talking for every facility, but in my experience, there are professional boundaries where you cannot accept gifts. It just becomes a little bit tricky because there can be times where they insist on giving you a gift, whether it's money or something else that's tangible and valuable, and then they might forget that they've given it to you. They might claim that it's been stolen, or the family might have an issue with it, like that was something that was valuable to our family. How can mum or dad just give it to whoever? So there's lots of reasons why organizations have that
those
rule
policies
in place. But then you do get, I've had clients where it's,
because it's their choice, right?
well, it's cultural as well. Like some cultures, they insist on gifting something when people come to visit, and so it's a little bit tricky. But I think it's important that as a care worker and professional, that you understand if it's going to make your client or resident upset if you don't take something. That's why we have progress notes and everything is documented, and you know that it can be returned or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah, communication is key
That would be interesting.
with everyone involved. But anyway, back to the subject at hand, which is the changing dynamics in relationships. So I wanted to just give everyone a bit of an overview on the differences with us, what we've experienced with Paul before and after his accident, just to put it in perspective. So before the accident, Paul was a very sociable person, and I know you guys have, you know this, you've met a lot of our relatives.
Yeah.
So we, family functions, Paul had comes from quite a big family, and so throughout the year there's lots of family functions that we attended to, lots of relatives, aunties, uncles, cousins, but we also ourselves entertained quite a bit, just with our own sort of small circle of friends. And Paul was part of a motorbike club. It was quite a big one that he was involved with within the Sydney district, and then him and a bunch of other guys, they broke off and made their own kind of little club thing.
The Sons of Anarchy.
The theme song cue.
I'm really sorry, but the dog did a massive fart and it's kind of hard to concentrate now. Oh my god, it's rotten.
That one.
Sorry, the dog really stinks.
Taste it.
We just skipped this bit. We have to cut this bit out.
Yeah. So Paul was part of this motorbike club, and every weekend he looked forward to going for a Friday night bike ride with his mates. And he enjoyed like planning where he was going to go. He was a very experienced rider. It was in his blood because his dad's also obsessed with motorbikes. So there's this large group of guys that go riding every weekend, and that was Paul's thing. So, and Paul was also the type of person that in just about every job he had that I'm aware of, he always made friends with the one person that everyone else didn't like. So
Yeah, that's nice.
I don't know. I remember we were at the shops one day. And we ran into one of his workmates, and he just looked dodgy and disheveled and unkempt. And Paul's like, "Oh yeah, that's that mate, blah blah blah. That we're gonna go fishing on the weekend." And I was like, "Why do you make friends with these people?" Like, he looks dodgy. Oh, I know, I'm a judgy bitch, but that's what he did. Paul goes for the underdog.
Nice.
So yeah, that social aspect of his life was very important to him, as it is to all of us. Because it's kind of like your identity in a way, when you belong to a group or belong to
that's right.
People that you have a shared interest with and can confide in and things like that. So that's just like a bit of a broad overview of the type of person that Paul was prior to the accident. So very family orientated and
Always getting out and doing stuff.
Yeah, always outside.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a bit of a sore spot for me that he was able to plan these bike rides and things every weekend. But when I wanted to go shopping,
They don't want to come shopping.
Always a reason, like, I can't, I'm working on my bike.
And now,
Like,
come on. No, it's forced.
Polly, come shopping.
Now you have
The
no
tables
choice.
have turned.
Yes, yes. Mama needs a new pair of shoes. You're coming
Yeah,
along.
that's right.
Okay, so then after the accident,
Yeah.
he spent a long time in rehab. So he was in a coma for 3 months. And then during those 3 months, as I've spoken about before, I had to make a decision about whether or not he's going to survive or we just let him go. And I made the call to give him every opportunity that if he's fighting for his life, I'm going to give him every opportunity to keep him alive, to allow him to do so. But during the time in rehab, so he went to rehab, it was close to 2 years. From about the 1.5 year mark when we started talking about discharging him into the home and our home getting modified and carers and getting the ball rolling with all of that. There was a delay, he had problems with his catheter and ending up, he was, if I remember, for about 6 months, maybe not quite 6 months, maybe it was about 4 months, where every 4 weeks, he would get a catheter change. He would then end up in ICU for a week.
Wow.
And it was every month like that until I said, you know what, we can't live like this. He can't come home and every catheter change, I'm taking him back to hospital. So we had the catheter removed, and we had a pretty good reason for it. So I was just sick of getting a phone call that there was a Met call at hospital again for Paul because of infection to the bladder. Anyway, so during that time in rehab, there was a time where Paul's motivation to rehab, towards therapy, wavered a lot. And I recall that the physio aide pulled me aside one day when I was coming in, and she said, look, I don't know what's going on with Paul, but he is just not motivated. We can see he's not trying. He appears to be very depressed.
Yeah.
Where before, he was doing a lot more, like engaging a lot more with the therapist, with physiotherapy, because, Paul used to be able to, when you strapped into the tilt table, he was able to do squats on the table, like while he's strapped in. And she said, there's no attempt at anything. And so I thought,
How did it make you feel as well? Like,
really helpless.
Time,
I actually felt quite helpless because I didn't know what to do. I thought, I'm here every day. I bring the kids on the weekends. And I thought maybe because he had regular visitors, I came every single day and I brought the kids on the weekend. And then his dad was coming every day, but at night. So I was there for most of the day. And then for the evening, his dad would come. And then his mum would come like once a week or as often as she could. But it was us coming regularly, and family members came, but a lot of them came in the beginning, including his motorbike mates. They all came at the beginning. His closest friend was coming every week for the first few weeks, and then it died off because we had this conversation that I don't think Paul remembers me. He has no idea who I am. I don't think he wants me there. And I tried to say nicely, even if he doesn't remember you, having you come and visit will make him realize that I do have support. I do have people who want me in their life, who want to see me get better, and just keep that motivating spirit alive for him. But I think part of it was also, which I'll get into as well, just this, I guess it's a fear of, if you haven't been around someone with a disability.
Yeah, it's the stigma, I guess.
It's the unknown, and not being educated, not knowing how to speak to someone who can't talk back to you. So there's a lot of things to unpack there. But during one of our case conferences with the doctor, the doctor explained to me the importance of family support. It's kind of like a make and break when it comes to rehab, because if you don't have love and support, what's there to motivate you to get better?
What's it like? The feeling is, what do you live for, really?
Exactly. And unfortunately, because I got to see it firsthand in rehab, how there were people there with no family support, like no one came to visit. They might have had family. I remember Paul was sharing a room with this really young guy, and his family lived overseas, and I think he had relatives that he was staying with while he was here in Sydney, but they hardly ever came unless there was a need for it. Like, they came to pick up his clothes to wash them, but I never saw them come and just sit with him and have a chat with him. So I kind of took on that role because I was there with Paul while they shared a room. So it was really sad. Because the physio aide was saying, we're a bit concerned about Paul and what's going on with him emotionally and everything. So I actually reached out to some relatives, just a couple of them, just to kind of say, look, this is what's going on. I think it would be really beneficial for Paul if some family came to visit him other than those of us in his immediate circle.
Because sometimes like you need support and you want advice or guidance from someone that you don't spend every day of your life with.
Exactly. And that was my thought exactly. And I said, look, I know realistically people are busy. Everyone else's life moves on. Ours does not. This is our life now. We are kind of like stuck here. So it was more about, like, if you can even just 30 minutes of your time just to come and pop your head in and just spend some time. I was even giving suggestions, because I know talking to someone who can't talk back is a skill in itself, and it's daunting for people because you don't know how to talk to someone who can't talk back. So I was like, go in there, read a book, tell them how work is going, how what's going on in your life, any problems, because he can't talk back to you, so
he can't argue with you, he can't fight you.
Like in the last episode, do what Emma does and hold him prisoner.
That's right.
And tell him your deepest, darkest secrets.
That's right.
Unfortunately, my pleas to get people to visit fell on deaf ears because it didn't happen.
Why do you think that the reason, why do people distance themselves? Like, when someone has an accident, why is it? Or like, why do they disappear?
So that's a really good question. There is an emotional toll that this takes on Paul, but also on the family. So there is a fear of the unknown, not being educated on, how to deal with someone with that level of disability. And it's also because it puts a spotlight on your own vulnerabilities when you're faced with something like Paul's accident. If that happened to you in your family, not everyone is equipped to deal with the emotional aspect that comes with this sort of thing. And look, I even saw it with my dad. So my dad was, he had a stroke in 2005. He was in hospital for 6 months. He lost his leg as a result of complications. And when he did come home, and then my mum became a full-time carer for him, and my dad was a pretty popular guy prior to that. He was, I can remember growing up entertaining every weekend. There was a pig on the spit. There was a group of his mates would come over, a big feed, and they would sing and drink and, you know, laugh all night. And then Dad had his stroke, was unable to work after that, lost his leg. You know, he had some speech issues, but was still able to communicate. But none of his friends came to visit. And I remember saying to my mum, I go, where are all the people? Like, not one of them have come to visit. And Mum was like, well, this is what happens when someone becomes disabled and is no longer able to participate in those activities and hobbies like before. And so you're no longer that person, that role in that friendship group. So friends die off. And even though it's common with disability, and I think a lot of people out there will agree if you have experienced something similar, it's still not fair.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, people need to get over themselves. So even when it happened to us, and I saw it with Paul, none of his friends came by anymore, but even friends and family stopped visiting. And I think for the first, I'll say 2 to 3 years after his accident, it was still a sore spot for me. And I would vocalize it, but I know there was no point, because it doesn't change human behavior for us. It doesn't change. And it's certainly not a reflection of Paul and his personality. It's usually a reflection of the other person.
I guess even as like support workers, like I know I've had clients before. So like I worked in a group home setting years ago, and it was like a high care need house. There was 3 clients in there, like all non-verbal, she was in wheelchair, so it was complex. But one of the clients in that house, she actually, I can't remember exactly what disability she had, but she actually had no family, to the point that when she was born, her family realized like how disabled she actually was and handed her back.
No way.
Handed her back. And then she went into the guardianship, I guess the trustees, like they managed everything for her. And when I was working there, she actually died of pneumonia. And
that's sad.
And at her funeral, not one family member came. Only the support workers and the company that I worked for went, and I was one of the people to carry the coffin, and so was every other support worker on the team. So we ended up being, I guess, her family till her dying day.
And actually, just on that, it's
really sad.
Once I accepted that this is just how things are, you can't make people come and visit you. And I would run through, you know, if I ever ran into certain family members, what would I say to them? This was when it was still like emotionally heavy for me to see my husband, who was active socially, not just with friends but with family,
and like probably had good relationship with them,
and had very good relationships. Like Paul was the type of person, if you ring him to come and help you, he will drop everything to help you. So I think that's probably why it was so hard for me to accept at first. Like, why is this happening? That's your cousin or nephew or brother or friend that, you know, has helped you out whenever you've needed him, but now that he needs you, where the fuck are you people?
Yeah, that's right.
But no, I'm quite good about it now. But I think what happened is because you mentioned that carers have become your family, there was a lot of things that I found that helped me understand and accept our situation, because I made so my friend circle was quite small, and they are still supportive in my life. But post accident, I actually made really, really good friends for life, and friends out of care staff, because you know how fussy I am when it comes to
Yeah, it's very fuzzy.
when it comes to carers.
We all are at this point, though. I think we've all
We set the standard,
Yeah.
I think,
all joined in.
on quality, on a quality care team. But friends now, because as you know, we can't, with Paul being in a wheelchair, we're limited because not everyone has, well, most people don't have an accessible home for a wheelchair. There's maybe like one or two people that are accommodating for our needs. So, and I'm very grateful because whilst, yes, you know, we are homebodies, but Paul also wants to go out into the community.
Yeah.
It's very important to keep that community connection there. But I have a friend, one of my closest friends now, who she will, when we're getting together, Paul is the first thing on her mind.
Yeah,
She's
she
like,
goes above and beyond.
well, she was like, I've planned a thing for the kids, but there is, you know, an adult section there for us. It is wheelchair friendly. It's completely accessible. If carers want to come, there's parking, disabled parking. All the research has been done. And I think because when she came into my life, she accepted that the disabled component, including the carers, two carers, 24/7. It's part of the package.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was going to say. And not always relying on me to have to do the research on, you know, where we can, what we can do as a family, as two families combined. Because sometimes it's even hard for me because now I'm the sole breadwinner of the family. I have to take care of inside the house as well as the outside and all, you know, life admin stuff. And, you know, I've got, my mum's getting older, so, you know, there's things that I have to do with her. So there's a lot going on and a lot of responsibility on my plate that just having someone take some of that load off you is a huge help to me. And, you know, if you have someone or more than one person like that in your life, you know and appreciate that very, very much, because it is a load off your mind to not have to always be the one to think about that side of things. But even you guys, I mean, every carer that is part of this team brings something to the group. And I think that is very important because Paul then gets different people in his life. Not all of them are fantastic, but as long as, you know, they do their job well, of the highest quality, but it's good to have different personalities bring different things.
And it's good, like, I guess we all try to encourage and support Paul, motivate Paul, and that really helps with healing. And so the first question is, why do some friends and family disappear after someone experiences a life-changing injury or disability, even when they're invited to stay connected?
That's a great question, Emma. So people react in different ways. And a lot of the time, people don't know what to say or how to act, so they avoid it altogether. because there is a fear of saying the wrong thing or being reminded of their own vulnerability, as I mentioned before. And also, when you're seeing someone you love in pain or has become dependent or has changed drastically, it can bring up, feelings of grief, guilt, and helplessness. For some, withdrawing feels easier than facing those emotions. And I know that is definitely the case for a lot of friends and family in our circle, that it's just easier not to deal with those feelings. It is selfishness, but it's also because they don't want to face those emotions. So it's easier just to bury your head in the sand. And friends don't always know how to adapt, because the person with the injury or disability may no longer be able to participate in the activities that they used to share. Even for someone like me, when I became a full-time carer and I'm not always available to friends and family, if there is something going on and Paul needs my attention, obviously that's going to be my priority. So it's also understanding that my role as the carer has also changed, that I can't just drop everything and run, for a social situation. So yeah, change. Loss of understanding, because a lot of people are unable to grasp the daily realities of disability and long-term care. I know that the amount of times that
I mean, even for me, obviously this is my job, but the first time I met Paul, I'd never been in the industry. I've never been around somebody who had that level of needs or
even just being
disability in
nonverbal.
general. I'd never been exposed to it, but I just knew that if I was persistent with it, then I would be able to kind of build that relationship and also just understand how to, because sometimes it's just kind of realizing where the guardrails are and just knowing, okay, how do I interact with this person? What's the level of comprehensions? Because there's a lot of unknowns when you're dealing with somebody with a disability, and you don't get to understanding them on that level unless you're around them enough. So it's just a matter of just being exposed to it and learning. I think with a lot of what you were saying then, just a couple of things that popped into my mind about how I think a lot of people find discomfort with that because of a few things. Number one, obviously, because there's a lot of uncertainty with it, and uncertainty for most people is going to be just uncomfortable to deal with. And it can also be a thing of ignorance. I know sometimes in my own life, and I'm guilty of this, people that are important to you, or you say that are important to you, and then have been a part of your life for a while, sometimes there's an onus on you to understand when you're needed most, and you need to recognize when situations apply where you need to be able to show up for that person in whatever way necessary. And I think for a lot of people, and even myself in the past, probably things I've could have done a lot better, but there are times where just being there, showing up, and just being there for that particular person in that situation means a lot more than just the everyday stuff. There's certain times where that you could just easily let it go and continue on with your day, and most likely it's not really going to affect their life, it's not really going to affect yours, but it's a show of loyalty, and also just showing that you actually care about someone through your actions and not just your words, which is very important sometimes for people to see, because we can get caught up in just being so preoccupied with our own lives, we forget that we have to show up for other people. I'm very guilty of that sometimes.
Unfortunately, it's easier said than done for a lot of people, because it is a commitment you know. And look, it used to give me the shits whenever I heard someone say, oh, I can't, it's hard for me to see Paul like that. And I understand if you haven't been around, you know, someone who's a quadriplegic or someone who is nonverbal, it can be quite confronting. I remember one was a friend, one was a cousin, when the first time they saw Paul, and they just didn't come close. They hung back until I said, it's still him. He's just in a wheelchair now. And the more that they sat with us, and, you know, the banter between with Paul and I, one-sided, but still, that to show them that, yeah, Paul still has his sense of humor. I mean, yes, our lives have changed drastically, but, you know, he's still Paul underneath it all.
Yeah.
So exposure therapy, and it gave me the shits that I had family who would say, I just, it's too hard for me to see Paul like that. And I always just, you know, nodded respectfully, but inside I'm thinking, God, I hope that you never have to, that someone close to you ever is injured to the same level as Paul, because if that's your attitude towards it, then I feel very sorry for them, because I don't want to see Paul like that either. I don't want to see anyone with that level of disability. It's not easy for me, but he's my husband. You know, for better, for worse. And at the moment, it's for worse, and I'm still here.
Wow.
And I know it's not easy, but it's just what you do for people you love.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
do you have a question, Damien?
Yeah, I do
can
actually.
see one burning in your brain.
So actually, there's a question here that I've prepared. Is it common for people to feel uncomfortable around someone who is non-verbal or physically disabled? What drives that discomfort?
So, at its core, the discomfort isn't about the disabled person. I've mentioned that before. It's the other person's inexperience, fear, or even social conditioning. The more that society normalizes disability and communication differences, the less those reactions show up. So, you know, media has a lot to play in that respect. So yes, it is common for people to feel uncomfortable around someone who is nonverbal or physically disabled. And some of the drivers behind that are there's an uncertainty about communication. So people generally rely on spoken communication and language, and body language as well, to connect. So when someone is nonverbal or communicates differently, others may worry how to respond, or how will they know what the other person is thinking. There also might be some awkward silences, or not being able to get it right. So there is a fear factor there. There is also a fear of doing or saying the wrong thing. Many people haven't had much exposure to disability, so they worry about being offensive or using the wrong terms or accidentally coming across as patronizing. As we spoke about, I think, on the last podcast, where Damien mentioned, what was that word?
Which one?
Not disability. You used the term handicapped.
I missed the memo, guys. Sorry, I didn't. I didn't realize that was.
I don't
not
know.
used anymore.
I don't know if anyone out in the world of internet finds that term offensive. I think it's just outdated. We just don't use. There's more inclusive language that we can use. Even, you're right, I don't like using the word disability. And I was saying to you after we filmed that last podcast that I don't like using the term quadriplegic for Paul either. I think more for me it's reminding Paul of what his disability actually is. So I hate using that, but
it's kind of like,
what
you know,
other
it's
term
kind of
do
like
you use?
a write-off, you know? Like, you don't really want to just slap a label on something and say, well, that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes. But disability also reminds people that bodies and health are fragile and that life can suddenly change. And it can trigger discomfort because it brings up fears about their own vulnerability or that of their loved ones. And as I mentioned before, society's stigma and stereotypes, the media often portrays disability as something tragic to pity or heroic to inspire others. Those stereotypes don't leave much space for seeing a disabled person as a whole person, which can make interaction seem unnatural until someone unlearns those biases. And also, if someone hasn't spent time around people with disabilities, the unfamiliarity itself feels intimidating. And over time, exposure usually replaces that discomfort with ease. But a lot of people don't push through that barrier.
Yeah, that's right.
To get to that place of ease. So,
Yeah.
Can I say something to you? Just to kind of cap that off, to something I thought was worth mentioning. This is kind of a personal perspective of mine. It might be a bit different for other people, but I also feel like sometimes it's also from a place of pride and self-preservation that they don't want to get to know somebody who may be living with a condition that, you know, has limitations on them, because obviously there's a stigma there. But then, you know, if you're not interacting with someone or wanting to get to know someone, or even at the bare minimum acknowledge someone because they have some level of, you know, disability, then I feel like that's just a little bit cold-hearted, to be honest, because at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all going to end up in the dirt.
Yeah.
So, like, to avoid that, we're all on the same playing field. To me, it's just like you're still trying to live on life with rose-tinted glasses, as if everything is fine. And unfortunately, we live in a society now where we glamorize these things and status and success and what you have and what you do. But if you don't have enough love to acknowledge the next person, especially when they probably need a little bit more support than the next person, to me, that's just like an indication of their heart posture as well.
yeah.
Like, whenever I see someone in public with somebody with this disability, like, I just smile. I instantly smile because I know that the person has this, they have a good heart posture. Like, they know how to value the next life, no matter what it may look like on the outside.
See, I'm the opposite. I become extremely judgmental.
Yeah.
If I know that if I can, because I mean, as support workers, you can spot a fellow support worker a mile away, and I straight away I zero in.
On what are they doing? Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Because do you remember this was ages ago, but we were at a shopping centre.
Well, they're not all the same, just to be clear. They're not all the same. I'm talking about when I see them and they're being very attentive and things like that.
Well,
The
do you
good
remember?
ones.
And we were sitting and we were in the food court, and we were watching, obviously, a support worker with his client, and the client is there eating, and the support worker is sitting opposite on his mobile phone, obviously on a personal phone call. Now, you know, it could have been anything. I acknowledge that, but you see it so often, it kind of becomes pretty obvious that you may not be in the industry for the right reasons, which is another that'll be another episode when we talk about when we talk about the role of support workers. But there was I have so many examples. There was another one where
It's always the phone, though, isn't it? Like
the phone is a big one.
Yeah.
The phone to the shoulder whilst doing something, that's the worst.
Pushing your client.
Yeah, but there was, I think that particular guy, because we had seen them a couple of times, and I thought, if that was me, like, even if you're not eating with the client, at least sit there and give them your attention. You know,
Yeah,
no,
have a conversation.
yeah,
or something.
sitting there while your client's eating and you're there on your phone taking a personal phone call in front of him, in front of your client. Another example was a client, we were watching as a client was being dragged almost by the support worker. The client had a shuffling gait, and the support workers like pulling him along, and I thought, dude, I tried to have a look like if there was a uniform, but you couldn't see anything, because I think I would have dobbed that asshole in, because that was very unprofessional and yeah. But anyway,
But it goes to show that people are always watching, though. Like, as a support worker, we are watching you.
yeah,
You know, like, it is. Like,
Yeah.
you watch the fellow support workers, you watch people to, I don't know.
Yeah, but you're right. I've seen both good examples and bad examples. This might be a cultural thing too, because I know in a lot of countries, there's not even really a disability industry. So
The culture.
the understanding of how to have empathy for someone in that industry, I feel like sometimes it might even just be a foreign concept to them. So they don't understand.
empathy, compassion.
Yeah. Well, at least to the standard that you should be, you know,
In this industry.
exhibiting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's could be anything. But yeah, I've seen good and bad, so it really just depends on the person.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question, please.
Last question.
Okay.
Final question. Okay. What kind of grief and loss might someone like Paul experience when he loses his social circle, and how can this be addressed?
Okay, so I did a bit of research because it's hard to know what kind of grief and loss. I mean, we kind of know the basics,
Yeah. But we can't go
but
into.
to really dive deep down into Paul's psyche is a bit of a challenge.
Have to channel our.
But Paul would be experiencing layers of grief and loss. So this is a
Yeah.
bit of a tender subject. It is something experienced beyond the physical injury itself. I mentioned before about the loss of identity and your role within the friendship group, because friendships often reinforce who we were. So losing friends can feel like losing pieces of that identity. So, for example, within our friendship group, I'm the funny one.
Yeah.
You're the pretty one.
Yeah.
Damien's the one we make fun of.
Thanks.
So removing one of those, like you're grieving that
Yeah, of course.
part of your identity.
I
So
guess, yeah,
yeah.
because you feel valued, don't you? Like you have
Exactly, yes.
when you have supportive friends, you feel valued. So when they no longer come and everything's like stripped away from you, you no longer feel that.
and
I guess.
100% Paul is also grieving the version of himself that was socially active and included. Because as humans, we need to connect. So when friends pull away, Paul would be feeling abandoned or on the outside. So this can lead to isolation and loneliness, which research shows has deep emotional and physical effects. Friends are often the people who carry our memories as well. So for Paul, it could be also the loss of companionship of the people who knew him before his accident.
And I guess who he thought was his close friends. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There is also the loss of future dreams. So plans of continuing friendship often means you're making plans of traveling together or socializing, planning motorbike rides. That all suddenly vanishes. So he's not only grieving what he lost, but also what won't be in the future. And then there is also the loss of trust in relationships. Experiencing abandonment from people you thought you could count on can also create fear of opening up to new people. So it deepens the feelings of rejection. And, you know, as I mentioned before, I know I myself have felt this within the first couple of years post Paul's accident, you know, reaching out to certain family members and friends, and then not one of them come to see Paul. So for me, it was a really hard pill to swallow, and accept. And the more that time went on, like now I've accepted that this is just the way people are. And I have made some wonderful friends that mean more to me. And I can also rely on them when I need something, because I don't have, you know, because I don't have my, the role of what my husband traditionally was. That it's hard when you are trying to do something like, for example, if I'm unwell, who do I get to take the kids to school? Like, how many times have I asked you, do you mind dropping the kids off to school? Because
that's right.
I'm dying on the inside. But these issues can be addressed. So first of all, acknowledging the grief. So it's a validation that the loss is real, and it's not just friends have just drifted away. Naming it as grief can help him and others recognize its weight and value. And processing the feelings. So for some people, it's therapy and support groups or peer spaces with other people living with a disability, can give you a safe space to voice the sadness or anger and disappointment, because you get to share these feelings that help you prevent you from turning inwards, that manifest into shame and other negative emotions. And definitely that's something that we can see is happening with Paul, because he can't express himself. But those of us who can read him, we can see that there is frustration because he's not performing or progressing as well as he usually does, that there are pockets of emotional frustration and anger within his life. So we have other ways with Paul that some people may not agree with, but it's thinking outside of the box in how to deal with those things.
And just like us, Paul has good and bad days.
Exactly.
Right. So
and also creating new circles of connection. So there's disability communities, there's interest-based groups online and in person, or adaptive social circles that can offer new friendships that fit the new reality. And these connections often feel more understanding and sustainable. Also reframing relationships. So instead of focusing on who's left in your friendship group or your family group, or shifting towards those nurturing who stay in the family, friends, new carers who become like friends, and that starts to build that foundation of trust again, which is very, very important, especially for someone like Paul. And building meaningful social roles. So finding ways for Paul to contribute, whether that's through mentoring, advocacy, hobbies, community work, to restore a sense of identity and belonging. So just having that connection to the community, and constantly going back to Paul and asking his opinion on things to help him stay connected. So even though he can't voice what he wants, he gets the choice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And obviously the big one is education for family and friends, because sometimes friends leave because they don't know how to stay.
Yeah.
So offering education about communication and inclusion and practical ways to stay connected can keep relationships alive, providing that family and friends actually want to put the effort in. So in short, Paul's grief isn't only about losing friends, it's about losing identity, it's about belonging, a shared history and future dreams. The path forward is a mix of validating that grief while gently building new, meaningful sources of connection and trust, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to leave it there. Part 2 of this episode, we will dive a little bit more into strategies around how to cope with some of these feelings and emotions around relationships. So stick around for that. If you have any questions about anything you've heard, you can contact us. Our socials are in the description.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from you, your own experiences, or if you disagree with anything that we have talked about, let us know. We are open to it. If you want to make fun of Damien somehow, we are also open to that.
Or if you know a wife.
If you have any single friends.
Oh, he's really open to it. Even though he looks like he's not, he is, trust me.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us once again, and we'll see you in part 2. Say bye.
Bye.